When painters use their art to alleviate their emotional stress, it often brings out the best in them. This can certainly be said about a painting titled Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows, painted by John Constable in 1831. I don't cover landscapes often, but if I had to choose one, this painting would always be my first choice. There are several reasons for that, including its emotionally charged nature, the large number of symbols it features, and the fact that it triggered a bitter rivalry in the early 1830s. In this video, I'll tell you all about this painting and its painter, and why he's one of the few landscape painters I actually like. You'll learn why it caused an immense stir when it was first exhibited, and why there's also a healthy dose of irony related to this story. Let's first take a closer look at the painter, English landscape painter John Constable. He was born in 1776 in Suffolk, a rural area in the utmost eastern part of England. He filled his childhood years with drawing the countryside, which he loved so much. More specifically, the area of Dedham Vale on the Essex-Suffolk border, a place that has been designated as an area of outstanding natural beauty in the UK. When he started his career, he could have only dreamed about the fact that this area would be referred to as Constable Country today. That's for the simple reason that landscape painting was on the bottom shelf of popularity during the 18th century. Constable's first inspiration came from a painting titled Hagar and the Angel by 17th century French painter Claude Lorrain. At first glance, you could easily identify this as a landscape painting, right? Essentially, Claude Lorrain was a landscape painter, but he simply added biblical or mythological figures to them. These were more often than not very small. The only reason he did this was so he could sell his paintings. Without them, they would have been cheap landscapes, but because of these small figures, they were turned into prestigious historical paintings. Luckily, John Constable didn't succumb to this behavior, and he simply pursued his dream to become a professional landscape painter. During the first years of his career, he was forced to take up portrait painting to make ends meet. Just like his idol Thomas Gainsborough, he disliked this with a passion, but he eventually succeeded. The level of patience he displayed to make his dream come true was reflected in his love life as well. He fell in love with his childhood friend Maria Bicknell and only made it official in 1809. The couple only got married in 1816 when Constable was already 40 years old. The couple embarked on a honeymoon that brought them to the seaside town of Brighton, as well as Salisbury and its cathedral, which was featured in the painting described in this video. This was also the place where his great friend John Fisher lived, the Bishop of Salisbury. He became his biggest patron during the initial phase of his career and even presided over his marriage. His marriage clearly inspired Constable, and he started working on paintings that are now referred to as his six-footers. When his painting titled The White Horse became his first major sale, it finally ignited the career he had always dreamed about since he was a child. Then some French painters came along, including the founding father of French Romanticism, Théodore Géricault. They saw his most famous work titled The Hay Wain and were incredibly excited about it. This solidified his reputation across the channel. Just the moment that he started selling his paintings at a regular pace at the annual exhibition of the Royal Academy in London, tragedy struck. His wife Maria developed tuberculosis, and because of this, the couple and their children moved to Brighton in 1824. The resort city in southern England has a slightly better climate than his native Suffolk. It wasn't meant to be, and Maria died in November 1821, aged 41. What makes it even more tragic is that she gave birth to the couple's seventh child in January of the same year. When John realized that he was left alone to raise 7 children, his style of painting changed dramatically. This can be seen in his work titled Hatley Castle, but is most noticeable in Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows. As the title of the painting explains, it depicts the magnificent Gothic structure, seen from a distance, while a rainbow emerges from the turbulent sky in the background. The painting was completed about 3 years after Maria passed away, and it emphasizes that Constable still wasn't over the death of his beloved wife. Something had changed, and this can be easily seen when you compare his other paintings depicting this lovely structure. He added several symbols that tell the complete story, so let's take a closer look at the details. On the left side of the painting, you can see a funerary monument, which was a reference to his deceased wife. This symbol of death stands below an ash tree, a type of tree that has been traditionally associated with the force of life. The painter wanted to highlight that although his wife was dead, he and his children continued their journey without her. At the foot of the tree, he painted an elder bush. This is a type of plant that he associated with death, further stressing that he had to continue life without his partner. The sky is chaotic and dark clouds are packing behind the cathedral, and that's about where the doom and gloom in this painting ends. The negative elements are completely overshadowed by the bright and colorful rainbow that dominates the upper central part of the painting. Rainbows develop after the rain, so Constable wanted to make a statement about his renewed positivity following the 3 horrible years that he experienced. What's interesting is that the landscape painter usually only painted what he could directly observe, but this rainbow isn't a realistic element. For this rainbow to appear, the clouds had to be gone and the sun had to be directly behind us, the viewers. Long before he started working on this painting, he already noted that he considered the sky to be the most crucial element in the composition of landscapes. They set the tone for the emotional depth that the artist wants to convey, and Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows is arguably the best example of how to achieve this. Just to make absolutely sure that the message of the painting was clear, he added 9 lines from an 18th century poem titled The Seasons to it. The story of this poem is about a woman who died in the arms of her lover. As an artist, John Constable had been admitted to the Royal Academy in 1829, just a year after his wife passed away. He spent the final years of his life painting and giving lectures at the institution in London to present his views on landscape painting. Unfortunately, he only lived 6 more years after he finished Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows, as he passed away in 1837. What's striking is that he only sold 20 paintings in England, but following his recognition in France, this number was doubled in just a couple of years. He became the main source of inspiration of the Barbizon school in France, which in turn ignited the birth of the much larger realism movement. Yes, John Constable was a highly influential figure in the world of art during the first half of the 19th century. To conclude this video, I want to mention a peculiar episode related to the first exhibition of Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows. It's also immensely ironic how the painting ended up where it is today, as you'll soon understand. John Constable was the man in charge of arranging the paintings for the annual exhibition of the Royal Academy in London in 1831. At the time, another English painter named Joseph Mallord William Turner was significantly more influential than Constable. With this notion, the two got along rather well before the event had started, especially since Constable was easygoing and willfully accepted that Turner was simply more renowned than he was. As expected, the 3 main spots of the exhibition were occupied by paintings of the 2 friends, 1 by Constable and 2 by Turner. Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows was on one side, while Turner's Caligula's Palace and Bridge was in the center, flanked by his other painting titled Vision of Medea. For some reason, Constable swapped the paintings and hung his own work in the center, just before the exhibition opened without notifying Turner. When he saw what had happened, Turner was infuriated about this. According to contemporary accounts, he uncontrollably insulted Constable during a dinner party later that evening. Granted, Turner was a special character who had to be dealt with carefully, so that was surely a miscalculation on Constable's part. John, however, had a great defense ready. He claimed that he swapped the paintings because he felt that this accentuated Turner's paintings more. When you put these paintings side by side, he really had a point, but that clearly didn't matter for Turner. He simply saw it as an insult from a man who was, in his eyes, the inferior painter. Regardless of the heated debate, both artists eventually left behind their legacy. Many of Turner's paintings, including the one he wanted to be centered at the exhibition, became part of the UK's national collection during the 1850s. Constable's Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows, however, went on auction in 2013. It was acquired by a partnership of several art galleries for a whopping £23.7 million. It currently resides at Tate. Ironically, it hangs on the adjoining wall of Turner's Caligula's Palace and Bridge. To conclude, when it comes to landscape painting, there's hardly anybody in my opinion who can compete with John Constable, the man who single-handedly revolutionized the genre. The density of his paintings, vivid colors, and distinctive skies are elements that just about everybody can appreciate.